Hello and thank you for joining me for this tutorial. Today I'm gonna show you a different kind of wavy hairstyle. This is mainly different because of the technique I'm gonna be using. Instead of doing a normal like barrel curl, oh my god, this is like the worst word for me to say with my accent. So instead of doing a barrel curl, which means just a normal curl, this one is gonna be twisted. So it's kind of in a spiral twist, twisted on the curling iron itself. So this is the main difference. The result is a bit different. It results in a more like open kind of wave, more like kind of straight wave, which is great if you have long hair and you wanna maintain that kind of length instead of having it be more like fluffy and more voluminous and have more volume. So instead of more volume, we have more length. And also, if you prefer a more like a vintage and modern mix, you can also keep your ends of the hair straight and not do it the way I'm gonna be showing you. That way it's gonna be a softer wave, which is gonna have straight ends at the end of it, kind of like a mix of vintage and also kind of beach waves. That's another option you can take away from this tutorial, kind of change it up a bit. This technique is something I use all the time on my bridal client. In case you didn't know, I do makeup and hair for brides here in Tel Aviv in Israel. So this is kind of my most common way of styling my client's hair. Personally, on myself, I do prefer a more like a vintage looking wave. So I usually use pin curling techniques or sponge rolls or any kind of a roll that is more like vintage accurate. So it's like a wet set or something, and I try to use the curling iron on my own hair as little as possible because I do like to style my hair quite often. But when I do it on clients, of course, this is like probably one of the only times in their life they're doing this kind of hairstyle, so it's not really an issue, and the real issue is to have it be as long lasting as possible. So the technique I'm gonna be showing you is super long lasting. If you have the kind of hair that makes you think a curl won't hold on your hair, this is perfect for you, because seriously, like, this is as long lasting as it can get, as long as you follow my directions and actually let the product itself dry completely and kind of leave it in as long as possible. I mean the curls themselves before brushing it out. It's really gonna be the most long-lasting option you can find. So if you have this kind of problematic hair that you think won't hold the curl, try this and let me know how it goes. I am gonna add a little disclaimer that using a curling iron with this technique is not for like beginners. This is something you should try if you are a beginner, but you probably won't master it right away. It's not that simple, but once you get a hang of it, like, it's gonna be really easy for you. And also you have to be super careful because it is a very hot tool that you're gonna be using. So my fingers are kind of at this point like heat resistant because I work almost every day with a curling iron. So you're gonna see me kind of touching it and stuff and touching the hair, but make sure to be really careful and don't touch the hair right away, and try to like be a bit more careful than I am in this video. So as I said, this is something I do all the time on my bridal clients, so this is quite generous of me to do this video because this is like all my professional secrets. So I hope you appreciate it, and of course please subscribe, like, comment, whatever you can do to support my channel, because as you can understand, this is not my job. I'm doing this like on my free time, so if you can support my channel, I can make more videos and try to be more frequent and more stable in the times I post these kinds of videos. So I really appreciate your support, and let's go ahead and start this tutorial. Start by brushing your hair thoroughly and parting it in a deep side part. I prepped my hair by lightly blow drying it to be straight, so it's easier to work with and there is no frizziness. Create a line from ear to ear and put up those sections using alligator clips. We'll be starting the curling process from the back of the hair. I'm parting it into two sections because it's easier for me and because my hair is quite long at the moment, so it's gonna be way more comfortable than trying to curl it when it's in the back of my hair. We're gonna be grabbing small sections, adding lots of mousse to them and combing it through so it spreads evenly throughout the section. Yes, it's really important to actually turn on your curling iron before you start this. Now that the curling iron is hot, I'm gonna position my curling iron upside down and curl the hair around it. Once it's set for a minute or so, I gently remove the curling iron and make a little roll out of the curl. Then I pin it using a hair clip. This is not a must, but it will help make the waves more defined and also more long-lasting if your hair is naturally straight and it's harder for it to hold a good curl. If you want the waves to be more loose and modern, you can just leave the curl to cool off without rolling it and pinning it into place. I'm also gonna curl the two groups of the back part of my hair in different directions. Each side is gonna be curled in a direction that is facing away from the face. I know this might seem a bit confusing, but it's just about the direction in which the hair wraps on the curling wand. If you can make sure you are curling all of the sections in the same way, it will be easier to later brush them together into a cohesive wave. I'm just gonna move this section out of the way so I can start working on the other side and go back and forth. About the mousse, I'm using a local brand, so unfortunately I don't really have a good recommendation to give you, but pretty much any mousse can work for this. It's just a matter of finding one that its drying time works for you. If it dries too fast, it's harder to comb through the hair and curl it, but if it dries too slow and then you brush it too soon, it will also be problematic, as brushing moist hair will make the curls or waves just disappear. Notice how I'm twisting the hair itself before curling it on the wand. Many stylists prefer to do this kind of spiral curl with a curling iron that is just a wand without a clamp, but I'm using the clamp itself to also curl the ends of the hair to make it a little more retro looking. When I want the ends to be straight, like I do on my bridal clients a lot of the times, I just use the curling iron as a wand and hold the ends of the curl instead of rolling it like I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm touching a lot of really hot hair, so make sure to let it cool for a second before you touch the hair and before you pin it in place. If you are wondering about the amount of mousse you should be using, it's probably more than you imagine, because there is a lot of air bubbles in it and it really absorbs quickly into the hair, so aim towards making the whole strand of hair wet and pay special attention to the ends of the hair. Also make sure to avoid the roots, as the curling iron does not reach them, so there is no need to put product on them. I like to keep rolling the curling iron until the only part of the hair that is under the clamp are the ends of the curl. That way I know I curled the ends perfectly and that the clamp does not leave any mark on any specific part of the curl. If you're not curling the ends, there is no reason to do this. As I said, you can just twist and curl each curl around the wand and just hold the ends until it heats up and dries, and it will also come out looking really glamorous and wavy. Make sure you shake the bottle of the mousse well before you start this process. If you want and you work pretty fast, you can also work in rows, taking a whole row of hair, using lots of product on it, combing it thoroughly, and then curling it strand by strand. You have to do this quite quickly as you don't want to curl a strand of hair that is already dry from the product. It will just make it harder to work with. Don't forget to take little breaks so your arms don't get tired. Don't get frustrated if the ends keep slipping away, just keep rolling it and it will ultimately get in there. So I think you got the point by now. I'm cutting away to working on the front section. I'm parting the front into 3 sections. There are 2 side sections and 1 center top section. On one of the sides I have less hair for some reason, so I'm just rolling all of it in one curl. This side I'm just rolling like all the other curls on that side of the head. So here we go with styling the front center top section. I'm starting from the back forward, clipping this section aside so it's not in the way. I'm trying to grab kinda random sections so I don't create defined partings in this area. Here you can really see how tightly I hold the curl and kind of push it. Curling it tightly also helps it be more defined and lasting. When you see me keep touching the hair, it's because I'm trying to see if it heated up enough and if it's okay already to remove the curling iron. Finally, the last one. On this strand of hair, I try to make sure it's angled in 45 degrees from my forehead, so it helps a bit with creating volume. I also try to make sure the roll is completely smooth and there are no marks left from the clamp, as this area will be very visible. You can see here I try to roll this one as close as possible to the roots, so they also get a bit of shape and volume to help out with volume in the styling process later on. So that's it for this part. It's best to try and leave it in as much as possible. I would usually do this way before the makeup for best results. In this case, I just waited for about 10 minutes to make sure it's cooled down. Next, after we make sure the curls are not hot anymore and the product is completely dry, we can start removing the clips. If you were able to leave in the rolls for a few hours, that's the best, and you can be completely sure everything will be fine. This is how your curls should look like. If they're not bouncy and overly curled, you probably won't have a great wave, so don't be afraid of this phase, no matter how ridiculous it looks at first. Now the fun part begins. This is literally magic. Once you grab a large comb and start brushing through this, the waves basically discover themselves and you just need to guide them a bit. This is usually a quicker brush out than actual rolls or pin curls, so this is another benefit of this method. If the product is kind of stiff, you can use a brush to soften it a bit and then go back to the large comb. This is not a must, but I always like to add some volume by backcombing. I do so by using a metal tail comb, grabbing long and narrow sections and brushing backwards. I use some medium hold hairspray and spread the backcombing a bit to make it fluffier. It's also a good idea to leave this section for a minute or two facing the opposite side so the hairspray dries in that direction and creates more volume. Keep brushing the hair until you find the waves. Brush the outside layer of the back-combed area. Make sure you're just cleaning it and not actually brushing it out. Find the waves of this area as well. Once you're happy with an area, set it with some hairspray. I'm using medium hold hairspray because it allows me to keep styling it without fully committing to a final style. I use it in layers and start out with the minimum amount possible. Before perfecting my brush out, I want to bring this section up a bit. I'm using visible bobby pins freely as they will be covered by the headpiece anyway that I'm gonna be wearing. I'm using a Headpiece by Miranda's Choice. They are a small woman-owned brand based in Berlin. This headpiece is beautiful and different on each of its two sides, and also it can be adjusted to be on either side of the face. It's very fun and tropical. It doesn't really connect with the Hollywood glam style I was going for with the hair, but I was in a bright summery mood, so I went with that. I also collaborated with Miranda's Choice by designing a hat for them, so check that out as well in the description below. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you learned something new. If you did, please make sure to comment below and let me know, and of course subscribe to my channel so you can always be notified when I have a new video and new tutorials out. So that's it, see you on my next video, kisses!